As an agent, if you get to the point where you have an agent working for you, room buyouts and meal buyouts, which are where in lieu of your presenter providing you with hotel rooms or with an Airbnb or with dinner for the evening, you're getting cash buyouts instead for that. Those amounts are not part of what's included in your commissioned earnings. So it can be to your advantage. And I often actually fight for this for our artists because I try to get them every dollar I can, not only when I'm selling them and getting the actual artist fee considered, but, you know, if they can find an Airbnb that's going to house the band for $100 a night, where they're able to get, instead of rooms covered by the presenter, they're able to get $200 or $300, then that's, you know, that can add up over a tour. Wow. So it's worth considering or asking for buyouts if they're willing to cover rooms, if your band members are all okay with doing that kind of scenario where you're doing an Airbnb instead. So certainly, and same thing with meals. Like if you can get $100 in meals covered rather than having the actual meal covered, if you're okay with that, that can, you know, also add up and just help with the overall budget.
That's kind of like, for me, was some of the hardest stuff to do as an independent artist doing all that work. So especially when you're like maybe a little outside of that comfort region and you're going into other places and you're just stoked that you got the gig, and maybe they even gave you like a decent amount of money for once, right?
Yeah.
And then you're asking for, you know, the next thing.
So we should actually talk about pitching, almost go back to that, because that should be part of the initial pitch. Like, you know, so first of all, if you're pitching by email to several people at once in order to be efficient about things, make sure that you don't like overdo it with the amount that you're like putting out on the page, so to speak, because it really should be very succinct, but be exciting. And then if you get a response to that initial reach out, make sure at that point when you start talking about artist fee, say, okay, I'm asking for X amount plus rider, and that's where you attach the rider, and then the rider says in it, you know, how many rooms that you're requesting, the type of meal and hospitality, the tech. So all of that is immediately addressed before anything's actually like, here's my offer. So then you don't have to go back and be like, oh, hey, this is a great offer and I know we already accepted, but can you tack on the rooms? Like, it doesn't really work so well that way.
I would agree with you. I also think I might like at a lower level, it's maybe not quite the same. Like when you're playing like the really small room, you know,
sure, and they don't include rooms no matter what.
Mary, who owns the bar,
the coffee house,
you know, or like the, you know, and you send something like that to them, and they're gonna be like, what is going on here? You know, like, do I have to have a degree in order to figure this out, kind of thing, you know?
Well, so the nice thing about it, though, having a rider that's all-inclusive, is you present it to them and you say, attached as a rider, I know that you aren't a place that can provide rooms, but, you know, here's like the basic, you know, the inputs are part of that rider, you know? So it's like, it presents a level of professionalism and showing where you're at in your career, but it doesn't exclude, you know, you're reaching out to the right venues based on your market histories, so it doesn't really exclude you from having that conversation. Right. But acknowledging that up front is, I think, important, as you said. Like, I know you can't do rooms, but
certainly,
if you can do, you know, water and snacks.
Moving towards where you are talking about as your career progresses, that's the ideal. You know? But I don't think you're able to maybe communicate in that manner, and a lot of times maybe when you're first playing those 30-person rooms or 50-person rooms.
That's an important distinction. I
think it is always, though, worth asking them for cheap deals in the area, even campgrounds that are safe, or are there any fans of the venue that put up artists is another thing.
I frequently ask if there's homestays with people, if it's a nonprofit, if there's board members that do homestays. Also asking if they have like local deals with hotels. Like I know Caffè Lena has like a great hotel, you know, rate that they've negotiated. So And sometimes I've even, if it's sort of, there's been times when I've worked with sort of new festivals in booking artists, like that are, lower in the career path or price range on our roster. And I'll even offer, I'm like, have you ever reached out to your area hotels to see if they would sponsor rooms, especially if it's not the typical busy season for the area? Because, I do that all the time for either artists that I work with, or I'm also on a board member, and I've done that to get rooms for people that are performing with my organization. So sometimes it just takes them knowing, oh, that's possible, and they'll make a phone call and be able to get 2 double rooms all of a sudden for nothing. So so it's worth just putting the ask out there.
We did that with Chipotle for a while, which Chipotle doesn't want you to know about anymore. But sometimes you can call in at Chipotle while you're on the road as a musician and be like, hi, I heard you guys give bands food.
That's so cool. I have never heard that.
Yeah, that's a really one in the back pocket.
Do you have to meet them at the
Hopefully
dumpster?
they don't hear this. I didn't say anything, Chipotle.
Did you park your bus at Walmart's?
Yeah.
Yes, we
Yeah,
did.
we've done that.
We sleep in the
Yeah.
Walmart.
We've
Was
done
like
that.
our second. It was like home.
It's
I've got nostalgia for Walmart. I walk in and I'm like, oh.
The freedom of the road.
Yeah.
Right.
It's